It's incredible how you can start a business and fall into this pattern of getting busier and busier and busier. No matter how many employees you have, no matter how many clients you have, it just keeps this cycle builds. And it really is a cycle of your ego. It's a cycle of needing to be needed. And oftentimes, if let's say you get your business to a good place, most entrepreneurs will find a way to screw it up because they thrive in chaos. At least we believe we do. But it's not really that we thrive in chaos. It's that when there's chaos, we manage it better than most people. Similarly, we have value. And for many of us, a lot of our challenges come from childhood trauma, all these different things where we don't value ourselves. Yeah. We don't show ourselves love. So we're willing to do this crazy amount of work, this crazy amount of efforting. And for me, it really came to a head when my brother died in 2018. That was the moment where I was like, I can't live my life like this the rest of my life.
Hi, it's JP, and I want to welcome you to my latest episode with the Conversations with Eric Farewell. I think you're going to love this conversation. So many people talk about they're stressed for time. And as you guys know from my 4-dimensional wealth, time is one of the critical elements to true wealth. We have a wonderful conversation from Eric and how he went from a business where he was working over 120 hours a week, almost destroying his marriage, his family, and how he liberated from that to working, as he says, about less than 5 hours a month and still being profitable and thriving at the same time. I think you're really going to enjoy this episode as we dive into strategy, secrets, and the story of Eric and his realization that brought him from basically being enslaved to his business to being empowered by his business. I hope you enjoy the episode. Hi, this is JP Newman on Investing on Purpose, and welcome to the show today. I have a new friend, Eric Farewell, who's with us today. And Eric, thank you for coming in. It's hot in Austin, but you and I, from the day I met you, I'm like, you're going to be on my podcast. That's like the first thing after our conversation.
I think
realized,
it was. Yeah.
Right?
And not only that, but you say new friend, and I start thinking about it. I'm like, we've done a lot of friend things in our, 6 weeks of knowing each other.
We've already been to Utah. We spent the weekend in my house in Utah together, which was definitely some serious bonding.
Oh my gosh. Powder Mountain is next level. And now the problem with hanging out with JP is it's not really a problem, but you quickly realize that you have to level up your thinking financially, because everywhere we go, every time we do something together, I'm like, oh yeah, well, I need a lot in Powder Mountain and a house, and oh, I need a new surf boat. Yeah, your surf boat's really nice and fresh. Like, I need a new Porsche. Like, you start thinking every time you hang out with JP, it's like I need to level up a little bit.
We definitely had what was a very special weekend too, because Reed Hastings, who, as you know, who's now bought, and it's called Powder Haven is the new name, by the way. Ooh. It's no longer Powder Mountain, it's Powder Haven. So it's nice to have Reed Hastings, obviously the co-founder of Netflix, building this wonderful community. And you got to share at Powder Landing, which, as it turns out, he bought 3 acres. It's amazing how billionaires can surprise you, and just bought this beautiful beachfront property for us. And we had some phenomenal meals there, and we went surfing and kayaking and had our own beach, and about 100 people at dinner.
My favorite thing about this is I meet Reed and we're shaking hands and saying hello. And I'm like, man, this is such a beautiful spot. I'm really blown away. He's like, yeah, it is beautiful, isn't it? I hadn't seen it before either. I was like, dude, I love this. This guy leads the way that you should lead, which is let your people do what you hired them to do. He didn't micromanage, he didn't nitpick. He just said, oh, you're going to buy 4 acres or 3 acres or whatever on the water.
Oh, yeah, and transform it in 8 weeks. He hadn't even seen it, and we got to enjoy that.
It was so cool.
It was pretty. Yeah. It was pretty awesome. So that's even how billionaires level up. That's pretty fun to see how that goes. Eric, one of the things that really many things stood up about you, because your story is really unique,
weird,
unique. But I've been talking more and more about this idea of 4-dimensional wealth. Like, what is wealth beyond money, right? So we talk about like the 4 pillars being obviously community. Being connected to some community, whether it's your church, your temple. In Austin, we have great communities here, right?
Why I moved here.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And the other dimension, of course, is passion. What's your why? What are you really, really connected to? What is the why that makes you cry, as Tristan says on my last podcast? And then I talk a lot about time. Like, so many people may have money, but they don't have their time managed. And to me, you don't have real wealth and then of course there's health, but health is a little out of your boundary. You can only control health so much. So to me, what 4D wealth really is when you have those buckets, when you have your time, your passion, your community, and your money all in like order, then you're starting to achieve true happiness and true wealth. And that's really what I talk about. And I was hoping, you could cover all those categories with me today, but one of the things that really stood out about you was time. Because it's interesting that from your story of getting to work at 13 years old,
Went to work at 7, started my first business at 13.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And you've
family
been
businesses.
working like a dog.
Oh yeah.
Multiple successful businesses, multi-million-dollar businesses that almost killed you, and like literally almost killed you and brought you to the ground.
Yeah.
And ironically, you had some liberation, which I actually want to hear more about the story on the podcast in 2022. Like, I'm not going to grind myself. I'm not going to burn myself. I'm not going to kill myself over this. I'm going to with a whole new approach of how I do businesses. And I'd love to kind of talk to you, like, why don't we just start before we go there? But basically today's conversation, I really want to go, what happened to you in 2022? And what are you doing now to the point where you're now coaching other people, over $100,000, for a 1-year program to get your advice on how to go from being overly busy, overburdened, overtaxed with your mind to all of a sudden running multiple businesses, like what you're doing now, with ease and grace.
Ease and grace. I think that's the word ease is something that keeps coming up for me because I was that guy. I was the workaholic. I was 105 hours a week, every week, running a business that was incredibly rewarding. I still own it, still operates, still doing awesome. It's back in Florida. It's a flight school for paramotors, little fanny putting you back and you run into the sky. Ultimate freedom machine.
Which I want to do one day.
You need to come do it. 100%. Yeah. It's incredible how you can start a business and fall into this pattern of getting busier and busier and busier. No matter how many employees you have, no matter how many clients you have, it just keeps this cycle builds. And it really is a cycle of your ego. It's a cycle of needing to be needed. And oftentimes, if let's say you get your business to a good place, most entrepreneurs will find a way to screw it up because they thrive in chaos. At least we believe we do. But it's not really that we thrive in chaos. It's that when there's chaos, we manage it better than most people. Similarly, we have value. And for many of us, a lot of our challenges come from childhood trauma, all these different things where we don't value ourselves. Yeah. We don't show ourselves love. So we're willing to do this crazy amount of work, this crazy amount of efforting. And for me, it really came to a head when my brother died in 2018. That was the moment where I was like, I can't live my life like this the rest of my life. I can't keep throwing away my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my kids, my relationship with me. Yeah. Just because I found so much egoic value in showing up to work and being the man who knew all the answers to all the questions, being really good at what I did. So I started taking that step back and pulling away and quickly found that when you try to step back away from your business, for most of us, it will shut down without you.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist without you. So I had to build the right systems. I had to get really clear on what the missions were. But as you said, that 4D wealth, for me, it's really mostly about having the freedom to be anywhere I want to be, to have an empty calendar, like empty. That's probably why we've become such good friends so quickly, is because every time he asks me if I want to do something, I'm like, yeah,
let's do it.
Let's go surf. Of course I'm free. Yeah, let's go.
Well, actually, I think we met on a Thursday, and I think we were in Utah by Saturday or something. It was like
something ridiculous.
Something ridiculous. Yeah.
So it's that freedom of ability to really get engaged with people and have my calendar is wide open. I get to have these deep conversations that matter. And there's a lot of growing pains to get there. You have to get the business in a position where it's healthy, and you have to understand that you are going to take a haircut. The founder is always going to close better than anybody else because we care the most. We have the most experience with it. We understand it the best.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, I take the haircut every day to have a thriving relationship with my wife, to have fun with my kids every day. It's amazing.
You've given me 3, by the way, just as you say, you take a haircut. You've told me 3 stories in the last 2 weeks of unexpected money that came in at pretty large sums of money that came in. You're like, oh, I didn't expect this. This was from 5 years ago. I didn't know it was coming. And I got this phone call to send a large check arrived in my mailbox. You told me 2 stories like that. And then you just told me now with ChatGPT, you were able to put together a $1.3 million proposal. I mean, that's like not really, doesn't feel like you're hurting too bad if you're able to put that kind of, like you're magically putting some cool stuff together.
I did find $81,000 in my pants pocket. That's basically what happened.
Yeah, you did?
I did.
You found $81,000. That's pretty good. I love it. I'm like, we're surfing. I'm like, JP, I found this out of nowhere.
You got an email from the Army. They're like, hey, we forgot to pay you. It was like the best email I've ever received.
That is awesome. Well, let's take one step back because I do want to go forward and hear like how you came to this notion and how you're actually doing this. And I'm sure the audience, for most of us who are overworked, would love to hear some tips from you. But I think I don't want to skip too fast over the point of what happened in 2018 where you just felt like everything was on the line. Your health was on the line. Your marriage was on the line. your family was on the line. What got you to that point where, because to make a big pivot like that, when the world is at your feet, you're cranking, what happened that got you to that point? Where was the business at?
It was a lot of things. So the business in 2018, it was 4 employees, 4 million in revenue. It's pretty good numbers. But we were maxed out. We were running as hard as you could run. We had a wait list that was like 5 years long.
To do the rides.
Flying. Yeah, the paramotoring. And so we had this crazy wait list, and I was burnt out. I went to 2 of my past students who were mentors of mine. They're YPO and EO and up in Atlanta. And I was like, I'm going up to Atlanta to sell them the business. They had these grand ideas of growing it, making franchises and all these different things. And it's like, I just got to sell this thing. I'm literally going to die.
But what was burning you out about, like, what was taking so many of your hours? Like, why was it that, what about the school or about the business was it you, or was it the business that was taking so many, requiring so many of your hours?
It was the business. So we would teach from sunrise to sunset.
Oh.
Plus we would ship gear. We had at that point somewhere around 40 dealers around the country and around the world. So we're importing equipment in from Italy and Poland and Vietnam, and then we're double checking everything, reassembling everything, shipping it out, sometimes 50 to 100 orders a day. In between teaching classes and having that sunrise, get to work an hour before sunrise, work from sunrise until 10, 11 a.m., teach classes, ship stuff. It's flyable again at sunset, teach again, rinse, repeat. So it was just one of these things where it became so overwhelming. And I loved it. I loved the teaching part especially. But I went to Atlanta thinking I'll sell this thing, and instead decided to grow it. I got the idea of how do I scale? And it was hiring people. Mm. So we went from 4 employees to 24 employees in about 18 months.
Wow.
And it didn't work. I was still working 100 hours a week because I had still built in that everything went through me. But I was the decision maker. I was the smart guy. I was the one with the most experience. So everyone wanted to double check. At one point, I had an assistant sitting on my couch, and she started keeping a stopwatch. She said, anytime that there was someone, my office door was closed, but there was no one in there but me and my assistant. It was like 16 to 30 seconds, something ridiculously short.
Before the phone rang.
Someone came in the door asking, hey, Eric, can I ask you a quick question? Just these complete time sucks that were a total waste of time. But I hadn't built the confidence in my team to make decisions on their own. I hadn't hired the right people based on the right mission and the right core values to feel entrepreneurial that they can make those decisions for themselves. So everything came back to me. The buck stopped with me. And the reality was it was just depleting me constantly.
Got it. I found in my experience, so you said, you were saying that sometimes it's the ego. I also find sometimes you're so tired, it's adrenaline. That sometimes it's not even the ego. It's just like literally I'm just working on adrenaline. And the adrenaline kind of feels good until it doesn't.
Until your adrenals fail, in which case it's not so good.
And then it's not quite as good. Okay, so you're at 24 employees. Every 16 seconds, your door is knocking. Sales are still good. You're making money. Then what?
Killing it. Then I had that wake-up call, my brother passing. Realizing,
and it was sudden.
Yeah, he was a car accident, and realizing that I was at the precipice of losing my marriage. I barely knew my kids. I mean, they'd come to the office. Most of my childhood, the pictures I have of my kids, they're at the office with me.
Yeah.
Which growing up at an airport's kind of cool, right? Like that,
right.
That was pretty rad.
Better than a cube.
Right, better than a cube. But they're if they want to have dinner with daddy, they have to come to the airport. We'll have dinner there. And that it started becoming more and more clear that was not the life I wanted to live.
Yeah.
So fast forward to today, we have 4 companies. I guess a 5th of this consulting coaching thing I've started doing, which I fell into thanks to one of your friends, Ryan Moran. Thanks, Ryan. Cool. I work maybe an hour a month. And that's joining one of our weekly level 10s. I try to hop in and just catch up on what's happening. I do go to 8 to 10 weekends a year. I'm at one of our aircraft races because we have an aircraft racing series also. And that's really fun.
That's great.
It still feels like work sometimes. Like work. But I'm at this place where I get to be super present with my kids. And more importantly for me, because I could have sold my businesses. A lot of people would have. I wanted to be a part of their mission because the mission was so important to me. Our businesses help people overcome their fears through flight. Once you overcome fear, you're living in faith. And when you're living in faith, you're living in alignment with where you're supposed to be in life. That's my belief. And when you're in alignment, money's a byproduct. Happiness is a byproduct. Everything else comes to you. It's 4D wealth, right? And so I love our mission. I love what we're doing. And I think the only way I'd ever sell those companies is to the employees because they live that mission every day. And getting to be a part of it and getting to still, even though I'm not a CEO, I'm not operational, I get to be present with that passion. And I get to see every week, the 5-10 new pilots every week, and the pictures of their smiles and the joy that it gets to bring them, that new perspective. Because aviation is the first place I ever learned new perspective, right? Astronauts call it the overlook effect, where you get to look down on Earth and realize how small you really are, how small your problems are.
Yeah.
And so getting to have baby pilots get that experience, for many people, it's the first time they've ever looked at themselves differently.
Tell me more about that, because I know in space it's the Overlook Project. What is it? What is it about flight that creates that overcoming of fear and kind of gives you a new perspective on life? This kind of catharsis. What is it? What happens that you see that happens to these pilots?
It's a superpower.
It's a superpower.
I mean, if you think about it,
right?
If you could run into the sky, we could go walk right out here in your driveway. We go lay out a paraglider, put a backpack on, run to the sky, and go explore anywhere you want to explore. You could drop down to the valleys, drag your feet through the water or the river. You could smell everything you're flying past. You're part of the universe, but you're seeing it from a completely different way than humans were perhaps ever designed to see it. I mean, I have to imagine it's like doing drugs. You have like this totally out of body, different experience around what should be normal, right?
Right.
So,
that's cool.
Yeah.
And do you find that it does create like spiritual transformations, that when is it an empowerment thing? People feel empowered, or different perspective, or what do you think that the transformation happens from it?
All of the above. And what is really interesting is we see people so frequently in that business. And we didn't come here to talk about paramotors, guys. It's just happening.
No, but this is back to purpose.
Yeah. So when people come in like you, big personality, strong, muscularly strong, mentally strong, oftentimes you come into the class, you'll train, you'll work hard. It's very hard. It's physically demanding. It's mentally demanding. And you'll try to brute force your way through. And at the end of 2 weeks, getting some flights in, you're going to be calm, and you're going to be demure, and you're not going to be forcing. You'll be dancing with the wing. Someone comes in demure, quiet, not assertive. By the end of 2 weeks, oftentimes they're assertive, not demure. There's something that shifts within us, because we have to go to the other side, that duality of who we all are. And it's really incredible. I tell the story a lot, but there was a kid who was 22. He got his flight training as a gift from his parents for graduating college. And he came in and he always covered his face. He'd kind of have a conversation with you like this, because he had a seizure. So the left side of his face had fallen. And he always hid it. And every conversation, hiding his face. And at the end of 2 weeks, his hand was gone. He was just himself. There was no fear around his what he looked like, what he felt like. It was just him.
So it's almost like once you confront your fear, once you're like lifted into the air, and like maybe your other fears seem small, like the overlook effect.
Right.
They seem smaller. That puts them in
perspective. It's all perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. So I understand why you didn't want to sell the company. Then you're like this. There's purpose over profit here. This is something that's important to me. Okay. So now you have 24 employees. Not seeing your kids much. Your wife's not happy. But you don't want to sell the companies. What's next?
My next step was therapy. A lot of it, a lot of both group therapy, couples therapy, individual therapy, starting to attack the demons I've been carrying since I was a child, and not wanting to address because it wasn't normal in my culture. And so therapy turned to meditation, found some great leaders and some thought leaders that shifted how I thought about what I needed in life. Meditation changed to breath work, men's work, all kinds of different somatic things, just discovering who I really was and what I really wanted, and then empowering my team. So we set a very clear mission that's very attainable, understandable. We set really cool, clear values, and then we hired people. And the people we hired, over 90% of them are past students. So they get it. They understand why we do this. And once you find people that are empowered by what you do and they understand the mission clearly, then you just have to learn to let your ego die.
Yeah.
And so I just stopped going to the office.
Wow.
My wife went to the office. She took over one of our employees that left really fast. She took over the warehouse management job. So now our roles are reversed, right? I've got a 9-year-old kid at home who I've not been home with for 9 years. And my wife's going to the office. I'm taking care of homeschooling these kids. I'm doing all this stuff. And what am I supposed to do? I can't be in the office if I'm taking care of 3 kids. My wife's in the office. Okay. Empower, encourage, build systems. Every time we find something that went wrong, I mean, we could have hours of comedic moments of employees who were ordering parts, and the wrong part would come in, so they'd order 10 more. And this would happen 5, 6, 7 times of the $300 carburetors. And they kept ordering the same wrong part number and not checking in with the manufacturer. So we ended up with $10,000 in carburetors that were completely unusable.
Yeah.
But there was no system in place. So we start building these systems out, and really a lot of it was just learning to let go of the things I didn't like doing, but I felt like I needed to do to bring value.
Mm.
And the rest is history. The rest is, fast forward 4 years later, we were completely clean and clear of the businesses. We had incredible people in place that were managing the teams and the systems. And we decided, what do we want to do? We want to live somewhere we have community. So we showed up to Austin, Texas. And
2 years ago, right? 2-3 years ago?
Yeah, a year and a half ago. And
Yeah.
we moved here 5 weeks later. We were like, this is the spot. This spot's amazing.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And so now is your wife still part of the, I mean,
She retired January 1st.
So the employees are truly running the business right now.
Yeah.
And what are the results of that since the employees have taken over? How's the business doing?
It's been we're in a recession, whether people want to say so or not, at least for when it comes to butt fans, as we call them, when it's something that's not necessary. The industry as a whole is down, but we're still profitable. Everyone's still getting paid. We haven't had any layoffs. I'd love to say the business has flourished and we made an extra $10 million this year. But
give it a couple of years.
I think it will.
What was it, Eric? So you said like for you stayed home. Your brother had passed very tragically and sad. But you said it was time for me to kill my ego and really find my purpose. What did you find? What were you killing? What were you killing and what were you looking for? What was the transformation about?
So the deepest part of that is, we talked about it earlier about creating chaos because we're good in chaos. We're also, as founders, most often we have the right answer to everything. We're there for it. We're the shortcut to getting the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
To step away from being needed and to empower others, you have to stop believing that you're the only one that can figure it out.
Mm.
That you're the only one that's good enough. That you're the only one that can have the right answer.
So the value, because it creates value for like I'm the only one who knows how to do this. Into your value. So you have to burn that thought that you're so important, basically.
Exactly. And anyone who's gone through an M&A process has done this. They recognize that you can't sell a company that the CEO does everything.
Right.
Or the founder. You can't. So obviously it makes sense that founders should step away and let their team do stuff, but most of them don't. No. Even people who say they do. If you actually look into their calendar at what meetings they're having and how busy they are, they're working.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you. You work too much. I don't get it.
I think I like my work.
I know it's good that you like your work, and it is. And that's the thing. It's like, what is work? Is it something that you begrudgingly? I hated email.
Yeah.
And it took a while to build a system to have the right person that can answer all my emails.
Yeah. But
it's not that hard.
Yeah.
It just took time.
Right.
Right. So instead of me answering all the emails, I have an assistant go in and she goes through and she would write drafts and then we'd send it, she'd let me send the drafts.
Great.
It's just hundreds of thousands of emails in there. How often is it that someone asks you a unique question that has never been asked before?
Correct.
It doesn't happen.
Right.
Right. So trying to find these things that we can do to start to slowly step away. And to me, the ego death is that not just the things that not doing all the things, but also the moment I stripped away my title. Mm. Oh, you're no longer CEO.
Wow.
Ooh, who am I now?
Wow.
Right. That's hard.
Yeah.
That was, at least it was hard for me. Maybe for some people, it'd be easy.
Very hard.
Yeah.
There's definitely identity to a title. I joke and say, because I have a pretty small staff, but everybody's a chief.
Right.
Everyone wants to be a chief of something. I'm like, can we just be like, what if we just got rid of any like level? Like just, this is what I do. I'm a manifester. I'm a this. I know some companies do that, but it is pretty funny.
I think the title creep has been hilarious to watch. I have so many friends who are awesome entrepreneurs and they're a team of one, and it's like on LinkedIn, CEO. And I'm like, you're a solopreneur. There's a slight difference.
Yeah. Even the word entrepreneur is a very sexy word, very French sexy word. Like, I don't know. I think it can get a little overblown. So Eric, how has it been? So 2022, you move here and also you have all this time. I know for me in this 2-year real estate slowdown, sometimes having extra time for me has been actually anxiety provoking.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's like, okay, now what do I do? I've been doing this for so many years. I've been running at this speed. My wife says sometimes I have 2 speeds. It's 0 or 60. And I've been trying, with all the Joe Dispenza and everything to like get to more. In fact, I joked with her. I said, I'm doing 30 pretty good these days. But how is it for you having so all of a sudden you have all this time? Like, was it anxiety provoking? Was it like empowering? Was it a little bit of both? Like, what's your experience been down that journey?
It's both. I think the heart of it initially, and at first, I have all this time. So organizations I'm part of that I love, like Front Row Dads, who are just amazing. I jumped in with both feet. Ended up retired, but working 40 hours a week, helping other people, right? Doing other things and basically just replacing this urgency and this need to produce, to bring value so that I matter. And it took probably took 10 months to finally step back and go, Eric, just be with you. Just be with yourself. Don't create anything. Watch YouTube today. Not YouTube learning things. Like, go watch video games. Go do things that just make you happy. And I've been doing that. Like, I've been working to just be happy and to just be present instead of having to keep building and keep growing and keep doing more and more. And then, of course, I have conversations like this one, and next thing I know, I'm like building another company because, but it's based on passion. It's not based upon a need to build a company. It's like, I realized, oh my gosh, all my stories can help people. As I started mentoring people, I was like, I can help shortcut years of frustration, years of pain. I've been in business for how many years has it been? 25 years. And I still think of myself as the kid. My hairline doesn't reflect that, but I still think of myself as a kid. But stepping to this new role as the elder is like, all right, I need to be the elder. I need to be the one that steps in that energy of, I can be present with you, hear your challenges, ask you as many questions as I can, questions I've asked myself, because we're all going through very similar experiences. We think we're hyper unique until you start getting to know people. And it's really been a fascinating experience to shift from things I'm passionate about wanting to do to listening to other people's passions and trying to empower them through my experience.
Yeah. And you made a joke earlier, but there's some truth to the joke with the human brain, is which, like, how much is enough? So like when you were saying, like the Reed is building Powder Mountain. Like, we all have these levels. And I even find for me sometimes, there is definitely some ego to title. There's definitely some ego to making money. I think as men, we're kind of trained to bring home the bacon, to kill the lion, whatever that provider thing was. There's definitely some value.
Some of my female clients have more of that energy than most of the men I work with.
Is that right?
Yeah. Dude, these ladies are killers in a great way.
It's great.
Keep going.
No, I'm just saying, like, being a provider and, how much is enough? I think you get to the point of, like, here, all of a sudden, money's coming in. There's always someone who has more money than you.
100%.
So even for me, it's like, how much is enough? And that's been a big question I've asked over the last 2 years. Like, is it enough now? Is this enough? My life's pretty good. You've been living my life with me. It's like a pretty good life, but there's always more. And tempering that. To your point of, like, letting your ego become your amigo is the expression that I've heard. Making peace with your ego of having purpose. Because I do think having purpose is important. It's one of the 4-dimensional wealth things. Having connected communities, and it sounds like you're doing that. You're just doing it in a different way now. You're just doing it. It doesn't have to be about the money. It's just like, literally, it's about helping, mentoring, coaching, and a business could pop up from that, but it's coming from a very, very different source.
And the business popped up from it after doing it for free for 10 months. Or 8 months, I guess. I realized that I was doing people a disservice by not charging, because there is a energetic transfer that happens, and there's something very special. And it's because of guys like you who are like, idiot, you're doing this for free. You've got to charge people. And I'm at the position in my life where I don't have to.
Right.
I'm set. I'm comfortable. I want to go back to your question. What's enough?
Yeah.
Enough is enough. But I think that there has to be an energetic transfer, because that's how the universe works. And not charging was actually hurting the people I was helping.
Well, you're not as invested. The person who, if you don't give a full cycle, they're not as invested in the advice.
Right.
If I told you I have right now, Eric, I can teach you in 10 minutes how to make $1 million in the next 30 minutes. And if that advice cost you $25,000 versus free, the odds that you'd actually go execute it for $25,000 is much higher than if it was just like free advice. Free advice. This JP had this idea, and it'd come and go.
Well, and 20 years ago, I was coaching and consulting for corporations, and I found that the happy place 20 years ago was $1,800 an hour. People paid attention and actually did what you told them to do. Anything less than that, they'd fight you. At $1,200, they're like, I don't know. I don't think you're right on this one. I think that's too big of a swing. We can't. At $400, they ignore you, right? So there's these gates that are really insightful to know what will inspire people to actually take the correct action. Yeah. And it's hard for me because I just want to give it all away for free. Like, that's my nature. I grew up in the service industry. I want to serve people.
Right.
But to go back to your how much is enough? I think this is a powerful question everyone should ask. And I think that some people never will have enough. They will always have this mentality that there's not enough out in the universe for them, that they have bad luck, that whatever it is. I think that I have zero tide anymore. Once I got past my fear of not having enough, I don't care how much I have. It's like, I could be broke tomorrow and it doesn't matter because I can't be broke. Community is currency. Preston Smile says this. Community is currency.
Yeah.
And if I have a great community, I can look around this room and tell you there's people who would show up to help me if I needed it.
Right.
And so I can't be afraid of being broke. And so do I need an extra house? Not really.
Yeah.
Do I need the place at Powder Mountain? Not really. There's elements of wanting to make more money because it'd be fun to be able to offer more experiences to my kids or my wife, or to give back more, to bring more people into a level of wealth where they don't have to fear the things they don't have. But I think that gratitude and fear can't coexist. So the more grateful I can be, the more gratitude I can have for every little thing, including the hard shit. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse.
You can do that. Yes.
Okay.
It's a podcast.
Including the hard things. If I can find gratitude in those things, like right now, as we're sitting here, my sister's in surgery. She's a quadriplegic. She had a skydiving accident. I've had a lot of loss in my life, but I'm so grateful.
What kind of surgery is she in?
They're doing a diaphragm pacemaker.
Oh, okay.
So that she'll be able to hopefully get off the ventilator, which is incredible.
Wow.
And I'm so overwhelmed with gratitude for the fact that she's still alive. The fact that she started doing comedy after her accident. She's hilarious. You know,
a quadriplegic doing comedy.
She calls it sit-down comedy.
Oh, wow. That is funny. That is funny.
You know, you start to just shift the way you look at everything, and you can choose to be a victim or you can choose to be a victor. I've broken my back twice. It sucks. I live in a lot of pain, but I'm alive.
Yeah.
But I can still go out and do fun things. I might pay for them. I could barely walk the day after we went wake surfing last week.
Yeah.
I helped him move, and then we went wake surfing.
I told you to take it easy, and then I took you. Then we had a great mountain biking in Utah, which was, but you did good. Your body did pretty good on the mountain.
The mountain bike was great until it broke, and I had to push it 2,000 feet vertically up the hill.
That's right. We did have that little mountain bike problem. I forgot.
But all this to say, I think that everyone needs to explore themselves on all of these things. They really need to study what feels like enough, and why is there a number if there is a number. If it's a freedom number of like, if I have 25 million in the bank, I can live off the interest or whatever, that's a logical reason. But if there's an issue in your soul where you have $50 million in the bank, you've got the fancy car, you've got the extra houses, you've got all these different things, and you still don't feel fulfilled, money's never going to fill that part of your soul. What can fill that part of your soul? And that's what you have to sit with.
Yeah. By the way, I found that even for a lot of young people who have goals, probably a lot of people watching the video, like I'll say, so what are your financial goals, or what does wealth mean to you? Because can you give me some financial advice? I'm like, what are you trying to get to? And usually it's not a why. I'm trying to get to financial freedom. It's usually I'm trying to get to 5 million, or I'm trying to get 1 million, or whatever it is they're trying to get to. And I'm like, what does that number mean to you? And then you kind of start going down that rabbit hole, and you realize it's kind of just an arbitrary number. It's an idol.
It's something we can look at.
So we keep doing that. And even I got to catch myself now at a certain point, like, let's double our net worth. Let's double the company. Let's keep doing these things. And it is a little bit of a scarcity. It's a little bit of, I just finished Lynn Twist's book, The Soul of Money, which was great. And she talks a lot about this. It's like, as brains, these human brains always need things. We just this brain wants, that's part of duality. And if you without the spirituality, without like the perspective of like, I have everything I need, which is gratitude, what you're describing, then there's a whole bunch of things you're going to need. Like, I'm hungry. I need a pizza right now. I mean, it's from simple things to, wouldn't it be nice to have Eric's truck? Like, that's a really nice truck. I think I want a large truck. And your brain will
need a large truck.
I need a large truck. And your brain will keep you on that forever.
And I think it's really,
unless you're wise enough to,
right.
And I find gratitude, by the way, to be really hard, by the way. Like, I don't think gratitude's easy.
I think gratitude's a muscle. I think at first, when I first started playing with the idea of living a grateful life, you have to constantly choose it, right? So it's a muscle you choose to flex. So I'm surprised to hear you say that you think gratitude is difficult for you, because to me, gratitude has become the most reflexive action. So something happens, instead of it happening to me, it happened for me. So how do you rotate every script? How do you change every script from, oh, this is a bad thing? Categorically, if you look at my life, you can write a tragedy, right? Very easily. The number of times I've been stolen from, the number of crazy things that have happened with friendships and true tragedies, right?
Betrayals, losses.
Yeah, absolutely. All these things, it makes a great Shakespeare play, right?
What was the title of your book?
Farewell to Normal.
So Eric Farewell, and his book was Farewell to Normal. Like, you definitely, like, you've been through your stuff.
Yeah, I've been through some challenges, and yet I can be the victim of the circumstance and have all these things happen to me, or I can find the glimmer of joy the delight, the happiness through the gratitude of recognizing that they happen for me. And if you start to look at your life through that lens of everything that has happened to me actually happened for me, that moment shifts everything. Because I can tell you, you've had a hard life and you've had the most beautiful, awesome, incredible journey of love and satisfaction and joy. And I look at your life and I just think of all the different ways. And this is easy, by the way. We can all look at other people's lives and go, "Oh, I would be so grateful for your life. Your life is great."
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I genuinely say that, like, we could, if we start to use that muscle, it's like any other muscle in our body. We have to remember to exercise it.
Yeah. So what is a good hack to remember? Because it's one thing to have a thought, but thoughts aren't feelings. And a lot of times I can say, God, I'm really grateful that we're sitting here today and there's no pain in my body as I speak to you, right? Like I'm grateful for that. But I love the idea of going deeper than just, because to me, that's still a thought. That's a thought of gratitude, which is great.
It's a good place to start.
It's a good place to start, but it's not necessarily a feeling of gratitude.
Right.
It's more of an expression. And I do find that it's a muscle that I'm still working on, where you really you literally just go deeper and deeper into your body. But sometimes it's hard to do. Like for me, at least, it's still hard to do sometimes.
All right, I'm going to take you back in time.
Okay.
Let's see. Today's Wednesday. 6 days ago,
Yeah.
9:30 at night, we're on the river on Lake Austin. We jump out of the boat. We're staring at the stars. And from deep inside your gut, what happened?
I felt very connected, just very, very connected, very relaxed. Just
You started
connected.
laughing.
Oh, was I laughing?
He was laughing.
Yeah.
And it's this deep, joyful laughter that JP
Yeah.
does. Anybody who gets to be friends with JP, you're going to love this laugh. And that's the moment where you're feeling complete, right? Complete gratitude.
Mm.
And I've heard you do it multiple other times, right? There's multiple times where I witness it. And what's really interesting is to get into your body. And you've done a lot of mindfulness work. You've done a lot of meditation. So have I. And those stages of learning to feel into our body, having the self-control to control our breath, to get to a deeper state emotionally and mentally, and then thinking through, what are your gratitudes?
Mm.
And I have mantras. It's like, I'm grateful I exist here and now.
Mm.
That's the first.
Wow.
Every meditation, grateful I exist here and now.
I'm grateful that I exist here and now.
And then I think, why am I grateful I exist here and now? I'm grateful that I have my kids. Oh my God, my daughter's so cute. My sons are so kind. Oh, my eldest is almost a man and he's just so cool and it's fun to hang out with. And we play Call of Duty together and it's awesome. And my wife is hot and she actually likes me.
That's
and it's
good.
like, I just start, it becomes
Wow.
this snowball of gratitude. And it's those moments and being a witness to those moments of laughing in the river and going, I'm here. You don't need a bigger boat. You don't need a new car. You don't need another house. I'm here. I'm fully present. I'm
Ta-da.
present with this moment.
Yeah.
And that's what's been that's become my calling. My calling is not just running businesses and getting people up in the air. As much as I love those things, and I'm so grateful for the steps along my journey that they were for me. It's a 13-year part of my life. I loved it. But the deeper journey is the one we're talking about right now. Because anyone can do it. You don't have to fly a paramotor or an airplane or anything else. You can just learn yourself and get present with you.
Yeah. So with the coaching, what's that about for you? In other words, what is it that you want to convey? You have your goal, I guess, is to be coaching, and you're started with some like CEOs. They're stuck in time. Why take this on? Like, what is it that you want to teach them? And then maybe you can give us some hacks of what you want to.
Yeah, I'm happy to share. So the basis is this: I had this conversation, very similar to this conversation, on a podcast. And as soon as it was posted, within a week, I had, I think, 7 different people asking me to help them do what I had done. And I'm like, what have I done? I mean,
I've done nothing.
Yeah, I started a business and now I don't work there. Like that's not rocket science, right? That doesn't take a whole lot of logic. But what came from that is realizing that really what I've done is I asked myself the right questions. I asked myself, okay, what needs to happen? What needs to change? What needs to grow? What needs to be in place for me to have freedom? Because I was a slave to my business. And that's probably not politically correct to say that. But I mean, realistically, I was working way too much and I didn't feel like I had any out, right? So I learned to ask the right questions. And so when I started talking to these other entrepreneurs, I was like, just started asking them questions. We start with the same question every time. What's your business's mission? Why? Because most of us have a mission that we have written on our wall somewhere, and it's like this big, bold thing that we look at and don't think about.
Right.
We don't live the mission. And then we dive into core values. And then we do an overarching look at everything in your business. Like, let's see who's in what role. I want to meet with anybody you report to so I can understand what they were hired to do, what they actually do. I want to do a full 360 of how happy they are. Look for tension in other areas of your company between employees. Otherwise, I want to look at your product offerings. What are you missing? Do these product offerings follow the mission? Are they actually doing what you say you want to do? And then there's tons of other little exercises that are really just asking questions. Because at the heart of it, I want every person that I get the opportunity to interact with, I want their business to have a clear mission, and I want them to have a clear mission. Because my deepest hope is that I can help provide the freedom for founders to have businesses that do more good, and for them to have the space for them to become better people, for them to become present with themselves. Yeah. And that's apparently something that a lot of people were interested in. I just didn't know it.
So give us a couple questions. What are some of the most powerful questions? If you were to give us someone a set of their first questions, what are some of the questions or the thoughts or either affirmations or questions that you love to jam with?
It puts me on the spot. I think that it depends so much. And so far, everything I've done has been one-on-one coaching. I'm working on a group coaching program because I think that it's just not practical for everyone. I can't work with everybody. I can only work with 5 people at a time, 6 on the outside. But
one of your statements that you said was being grateful for the here and now. Like just literally, how did you phrase it?
I'm grateful I exist here and now.
That's a very powerful, that alone is a very, very powerful one. If that's in the top 3, that's a pretty powerful one right now. Like no matter what's going on, I'm in traffic. Right. This person's bitching at me. My wife's unhappy with me, whatever it is. I'm grateful for the here and now.
Well, if you want to go more woo-woo with it, the one that was the hardest for me to say that took me years, going through this course over and over, is a meditation class I took. The third affirmation was, I commit to a life of loving myself. Couldn't say it. Couldn't put the words I love myself together in a sentence and say it out loud. Felt anxiety, felt panic, felt terror, felt like I'm not just like worthy of love. And with all of the work I've done and with all Front Row Dads, it's an incredible group of 340 men and all these men that I get to know and I get to have this great community with. And the number one problem is a lack of self-love.
Yeah.
It's people pouring into their families, pouring into their businesses, and never reflecting on what they need for them. So I don't have the right questions for you right now because it all depends on the right person. But for affirmations and things like that you need to ask yourself if you're ready for, those are powerful. And I can say I love myself now. It's still hard, but I can do it.
Awesome. I love myself a lot. Just ask my wife.
Oh, can't take you anywhere, JP. Not even your house.
You really can't. Can't take me to my house. Eric, I don't know. I'm really just appreciating this conversation a lot. I think it seems so simple, but so like beautiful and profound at the same time. I think really to get your time back so that you are really in your purpose and your passion and not a slave to a business for reasons that don't matter, to your point, like to be what? Like, so-and-so thinks better of you or so-and-so, or you're this big provider and you impressed who, versus coming from this place of creativity, which by the way, it sounds like from your experience when you find $81,000 in your pocket. And my experience is that, not forcing things, that things come. And I think on my journey, even now, but it's becoming just much more, I feel like I spent so many years being transactional. Hey, I'm meeting Eric, this is great. Maybe he'll be an investor. Maybe I can, and it's natural to like, sure you have a business, but like my mind was geared for transactions. And maybe it had to be. I was, more in survival. I was building a company. I get it. But I find myself now, like the idea of even our friendship, how we come together, there's nothing you need from me and there's nothing I need from you. So then we can really come from a place of all possibilities. Like sometimes I find myself still going into like little agendas and it's like, it's only a habit. It's only a habit. It's a habit I did for a long time, but now I can catch that habit of like, you know what? Do I really need to be transactional? I find the less transactional I am and the more I'm coming from complete presence, the more I can create monetarily. It's like if I don't try to force a deal, if I don't try to like be smart, being clear, being present, but that's the magic. It's not trying to force. The force actually creates the resistance, which seems counterintuitive.
Striving is what we are all designed to do at an early age. There's different stages of men's development or humans development, right? And I think that once we reach a certain point, our entire mission, this is going to be deeper than weird, just work with me here, All right. So your passions, your desires, your mission in life, like where you come in life. I think all of us were designed to come to this earth, to have experiences, to feel fully, and to create art. Whatever our art is in your own way. It could be financial art. It could be like coming out here, buying thousands of doors and building out your fun like you have, right? It can be teaching people to fly. That's art, right? It could be painting, it could be drawing, but our art is the joy of the gift we bring to the world. And when we stop striving, clawing, trying to get, take, and start trying to pour into our art, start trying to pour into the world, trying to give more than we take, suddenly it all happens as if it's lined up for you. And money's the byproduct. Like I've made a lot of money. I've been very blessed, very grateful for the experiences that I've had in my life. The moment I stopped seeking and striving and forcing and just did what I loved, oh my gosh, it was easy. It's like a dance. All of a sudden I'm dancing. I'm in flow and I don't have to work for it. I just have to dance. It works.
It's great. Should I sell The Office?
I mean, at this point, as much money as you had to put into this place, yeah, you should probably sell The Office. Maybe to me, because I really like this building.
You know, what you're talking about is surrender. I know it's hard. I know we keep hearing these terms, but what you're really talking about is actually you could really surrender and trust, which is maybe the same coin.
It's the same. Yeah, it's the same.
Thing. Surrender and trust, which I know it's hard if you're on the precipice. But I really hear that, and I also see that in you. I get the congruency from what you're saying and knowing you for the time I've known you as my new friend, but I can feel the congruency in your joy, in your presence, your energy level.
Pretty happy.
Yeah. And for a guy who manages pain, you do it pretty damn well.
I'm grateful, man. This journey of pain is a whole nother conversation to have, but I've 7 broken vertebrae, 5 herniated discs.
It's 7 broken?
7 broken vertebrae.
Wow.
And I'm
and
sitting
5
here,
herniated discs.
and I'm sitting here almost painless right now. Wow. I'm doing great. No pain pills, no drugs, no opiates, no alcohol, no nothing. But I have this woman who works on my body, and like it's called rolfing, which is this. It's like massage from someone that really, really hates you. Telling you, there's all this body work. If you guys want to get freaky about how to make your body not hurt so badly. And there's also a lot of emotional elements. There's a lot of stuff from my childhood, traumas and challenges that I haven't resolved and that carry on as pain in my body. Despite having the physical, actual broken things, there's a lot of emotional stuff.
Sure.
So.
I know. I get that. That can take onions of layers and layers. That's kind of what we're doing here on Earth, is to be the best we can be. And accept where we're at.
Right.
Except where we're at. Well, Eric, I think we're running out of time here in a good way. I feel like we just gave a lot. And I'm hoping that all you in the audience took away some nuggets, because I certainly did. I mean, it's one thing to read these, things in a book, and it's another thing to meet people who are experiencing and living it. And I just appreciate you taking the time to be here, for sharing it and sharing your heart and being vulnerable and real, and to our next adventure together.
Indeed. Anybody, if you guys get the opportunity to do anything with JP, clear your calendar and just say yes. That's the key.
And Eric, if someone wants to find out more about you, is there any way they can find out more about you?
Yeah, absolutely. EricFarewell.com and Eric Farewell on all the different socials. So it's EricFarewell, like we say goodbye.
And if you want to fly, it's in Florida. I'm going to be doing it soon. I'm going to visit my son and do that. So we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for joining. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the show. And if you did, hey, leave me some feedback. Let me know what you think, any questions or thoughts. It's really helpful, and I usually incorporate that into future episodes. Also, please follow me on social. I'm on all the major platforms. Would love to hear from you. We're building a really loyal and mighty audience, and I really appreciate you tuning in. See you soon.